Is UFC 307 a disgrace to the sport? Today we're going to be reacting to a video by MMA Joey diving into UFC 307 and criticizing it just a little bit more. Joey, I watched this video and he had a very, very interesting take, so I thought I would sit here and I would react for it today, and I would love for you guys to sit down and come watch the video with me and watching a video of Joey too. We're going to get into that in just a second. Before we do though, I do want to say hello everybody and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Guys, let's watch UFC 307. Pereira versus Rountree is a disgrace to the sport.
UFC 307, Alex Pereira versus Khalil Rountree for the light heavyweight title is right around the corner. It goes down on October 5th, a little over a week away. And this card is an absolute disgrace.
Now, I don't believe that to be the case. I think the card is really, really, really strong. Is it the best card ever? No. Does it have an undeserved title fight? Yes. I don't believe that makes it a disgrace personally, but let's see what Joey has to say about it.
I already made a video when it was initially announced, but it's gotten worse. This is a really bad card. This is a disgrace to the sport. Now that we've even had one of the better fights on the card canceled.
Yeah, losing Sterling versus Movsar Evloev was a really, really big hit to the card because that was, in my opinion, one of the most compelling fights on the card. I'm going to look up UFC 307 right now, actually, and we're going to take a look at the card because I have, and I'll bring it, actually, I'll put it on screen for you guys really quick. Sorry to put a little bit of a pause on the video, but I just Googled UFC 307. Let's take a look at it. So, yeah, Pereira, Rountree, Pennington versus Pena. Believe it or not, I don't, absolutely hate this fight, but I'm definitely not looking forward to it. Alta Batista's great. Kayla Harrison's okay. Delidze versus Holland is a really, really fun fight. For the prelims, we have Thompson versus Buckley, Rodriguez versus Lucindo, Almeida versus Pereira. All bangers. This one's going to suck. So the cards, it's really, really good. I apologize, everybody. I had to do a little bit of a jump cut when I was recording earlier today. The house got a little bit chaotic, so now it is nighttime and I'm continuing recording. What? I didn't have anything else to say besides, this card actually is really, really good. But let's continue on to what Joey had to say about this whole thing. Because, again, the video was pretty interesting, if you ask me. Excuse me, right there.
And now thrown off the card. This is one of the worst UFC pay-per-views in modern UFC history.
Okay, that is insane to me. I really, really like the pay-per-view, except, maybe the co-main event. I think it was a lot stronger, and I think that there is certainly an argument to be had. Okay, this isn't worth $80. I understand that, but it is absolutely worth a pay-per-view card. It's like a pay-per-view.
That's
levy.
how bad this card is. We're gonna go through it. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna talk about Movsar Evloev and a potential replacement opponent and some of the heat that he's been getting because he's off the card.
Yeah, and it has been confirmed that he is not taking another fight. And if I'm not mistaken, there were talks about him going on a future card. I could be wrong about that, but regardless, he's definitely not fighting at UFC 307.
Okay? There was talks of Jean Silva stepping in, but we'll get to that. Well, first I want to show you the original card. You look at the original card, you had Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling.
Now, was that really, that's a really, really big fight to lose. But then again, keep this in mind, too. If that fight would have taken place and they just grappled, everybody would be complaining. Just like Aljamain Sterling versus Callum Cater at UFC 300. Everybody would have cried. Everybody would have complained.
Card was all right. It was still relatively bad, the top two fights. But that fight is now canceled. Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling, which was arguably the best fight on the card, is now canceled. And now they moved Jose Aldo versus Mario Batista onto the main card.
That's arguably a better fight to have Jose Aldo on the main card. And he should have been on the main card, to be honest with you.
And now if you look at the regular main card, now, here's what you have.
Sorry, I listened to this in the background the first time that I watched it over here, and I didn't remember that he was actually going to show the card. So apologies for potentially wasting your time over there.
Okay, now that fight is canceled, and again, we're going to get to Movsar a little bit later in the video. You have Alex Pereira, Khalil Rountree for the light heavyweight title. Co-main event, you have Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena. I just threw up my mouth. Then you have Jose Aldo, Mario Batista, solid fight. Then you have Kayla Harrison versus Clen Vieira. Then you have Roman Delidze versus Kevin Holland.
He sounds disappointed about Kevin Holland versus Roman Delidze on the main card, but I think that's an amazing fight. I think that's incredible. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Unless, the only thing that I'm worried about a little bit is Kevin Holland coming in and just treating the match like a sparring match. I'm insanely worried about that. Then, I'm almost at the point where I won't be excited for Kevin Holland fight, but he's coming off of a really, really good performance, so we can hope for the best.
The main card. There's so much to dissect here.
There's not a ton to dissect. Kayla Harrison's okay. The co-main event sucks. The rest of the fights on the card, for the most part, are really, really good fights. And I wanted to make a video about this, but I don't know if I have more than really a minute to talk about. If any of you are into the Star Wars fandom, and I'm not really part of that myself. I've liked the prequel movies, but not much else of Star Wars. There's a saying that nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. I feel like that's the same thing for MMA, because I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, these are some sick fights. I'm ready to come and watch it. And then you have all of these MMA fans crying and whining about how bad a pay-per-view card is. Like, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the fights, man. Like, this is really good.
This video, by the way, is in a replacement of like my grading video that I do for each pay-per-view. Kind of been slacking on it. Roman deletes Kevin Holland on the main card. You know what? I went back and watched my initial reaction to the announcement of this main event. I literally said they're probably going to throw Kevin Holland on the main card because he has Dana White privilege. And that's what they did.
Kevin Holland is a main card worthy fighter. He has enough name value. He's typically exciting. I think he deserves to be on the main card.
Roman deletes Kevin Holland on a main card pay-per-view. There was a lot of critiques of UFC Noche. Where are the critiques of this card? Because this card is absolute horseshit.
Everybody said that about UFC Noche too, though. Look at how the entire card performed besides maybe the co-main event. People are over-exaggerating about the main event, but the co-main event was really the only fight on the card that didn't deliver. Maybe also with Raul Rosas Jr.
I hate this card with a burning passion for a multitude of reasons.
And that's what I'm talking about, though, man, because MMA Joey's not the only person that's like this when it comes to UFC cards. Nobody hates more MMA more than MMA fans, just like that saying with Star Wars.
First off, let's start off with this. Alex Pereira, Khalil Rountree for the light heavyweight title. In what universe does Khalil Rountree have earned a title shot?
Now, I understand where that's coming from, but that's no reason to hate the card. The fight's still a banger fight. Like Khalil Rountree versus Alex Pereira, those two styles going at it, that has a recipe for a knockout and a really, really fun fight while it lasts. It's a great fight. We've already made a video talking about Khalil Rountree Jr. not being deserving of a title fight. Long story short, because I've already said it, I believe that Magomed Ankalaev, out of everybody in the division right now, does deserve the title fight, but Magomed himself isn't really like this hard next contender to be title worthy. You know what I mean? So I'm not personally upset with this. Does he deserve it? No, but I'm going to watch it and I'm going to have fun.
You guys tell me that. You tell me that. Oh, he beat Anthony Smith and made him do a spinner Rooney. Oh, he beat Chris Daukaus. Is Chris Daukaus even in the UFC anymore?
Mm-mm.
Oh, he beat Dustin Jacoby by split decision.
I mean, Dustin Jacoby's a good fighter in my opinion, but I mean, like, not obviously title worthy.
Arguably lost that fight. Most people thought it was a robbery. Oh, he beat Carl Roberson. Oh, he beat Modestas Bukauskas. Oh, what a hell of a 5-fight win streak that is.
Yeah, and he hasn't necessarily looked good. Like, he had some really, like, for example, the Anthony Smith fight, he had a really, really clean finish, but at the same time, that fight was worrying. The amount that he was getting hit by Anthony Smith, you can't get hit by Pereira that same amount that you were getting hit by Anthony Smith.
And listen, I never want to hear Dagestani privilege ever again, unless Khalil Rountree is Dagestani.
Now, to be honest with you, and I've been meaning to make a video on this as well, but this is one thing that I actually do agree with Joey with. I think everybody overblows the Dagestani privilege thing. I think it's just particular fighters that the UFC pushes. Guys like, well, I mean, they're not really pushing Khalil Rountree, but they're being favorable to guys like Kevin Holland, Alex Pereira, even Michael Chandler. I think it's just specific fighters in the UFC that the UFC sees potential with and they want to promote. That's who the privilege, and I hate to use that word because it's so overused nowadays, the privilege gets pushed to. I don't think it's always Dagestanis. Like Umar Nurmagomedov, for example. Everybody was freaking out, crying about him getting a top contender. Was it deserving? No, but he has the name, he has all the potential in the world, and there's just some fighters that you can eyeball and you can see that they belong at the top of the division. And look what happened. Umar Nurmagomedov proved that he belonged at the top of the division. So the Dagestani hate, the Dagestani privilege that I see online is, I actually kind of do agree with MMA Joey on that sense, but there are Dagestani fighters that the UFC absolutely just pushes.
Because Magomed Ankalaev is the true #1 contender. 19-1, 12-fight unbeaten streak, and his resume is just so much better in general.
Is it? Is it? Volkan Oezdemir in 2021 is his last best win. The Jan Blachowicz, you can't count a draw. You have 2 Johnny Walkers, and that win means absolutely nothing. Anthony Smith means absolutely nothing. Thiago Santos was done, means absolutely nothing. His last good win was against Volkan Oezdemir, and we went through this on another video.
General. You know, say what you will. Oh, his last win was against Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker was like ranked in the top 5, top 10 when he beat him.
It doesn't matter. Does beating Johnny Walker solidify you as the #1 contender?
And guess what? Johnny Walker, what else does Johnny Walker might have fought Khalil Rountree too. What happened there? Oh, he starched out Khalil Rountree.
In 2018, November 17th.
Okay. So you go down his resume. Arguably the uncrowned champ, Magomed Ankalaev. He beat Jan Blachowicz. Everyone knows it. It ended up being a split draw. Everyone knows Ankalaev won it. That was for the vacant belt.
I actually don't recall what I thought about that fight, to be honest with you, so I don't have a comment there.
Should have been the champion. Okay, he beat Anthony Smith.
Oh, no, that's what it was. I watched that fight when I was insanely sick. I wasn't paying a ton of attention to Blachowicz versus Johnny Walker, or excuse me, Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. Sorry, I meant to say that. Yeah, that's why I can't remember it very well. I was really sick.
Far better than Khalil Rountree did. Anthony Smith was tagging Khalil Rountree in that fight.
Yep.
Beat Thiago Santos. Beat Volkan Ozdemir. Beat Nikita Krylov. Beat Iwan Kutalaba. Now,
in 2021.
Iwan Kutalaba's not that great of a win, but you know what? You compare it to Khalil Rountree.
But what he's doing over here, you might as well take a look at Stipe's record and see all of his great wins and give him a title shot. Oh.
Who got starched by Iwan Kutalaba. So, I don't want to hear it. 12 fight unbeaten streak. Now, we're going to come back to the rest of the card in a second. But I just want to talk about the main event. This main event is a disgrace to the sport.
But here's the thing, too. Like, I understand when you're looking at it from just who's the best of the best in martial arts. And if it was up to me, I would absolutely always have the rightful #1 contender fighting. But at the end of the day, the UFC is also a business, an entertainment business, one where they're losing stars like crazy. Their contenders are losing. They don't have any big names like McGregor anymore. Alex Pereira right now is capturing the world and carrying the UFC big time. Why would they not give Khalil Rountree the title fight? And that's assuming that everything is accurate with the UFC saying, like Magomed Ankalaev being difficult to book with, he turned down the fight. We don't know how accurate all of that is, but regardless, if you're thinking about it from the UFC's perspective and you want to make money, which fight are you making? You're making the Khalil Rountree fight. You're pushing Alex Pereira because he doesn't have too long in the UFC. If you lose him now, you might lose him for a long time, to be honest with you. It might, but why would you risk that? I think everybody, if they were in charge of the UFC, everybody criticizing this would have done the exact same thing.
And you have people cheerleading this because they are anti-Dagestani fighter.
Now, those people exist, okay? I'm not saying they don't exist, but I am seeing so much more hate for this fight than I am seeing for people loving this fight. I am seeing so many more people talk about, and I'm very involved in the online MMA space. Everybody's been talking about how Magomed Ankalaev has been done dirty.
Oh, Magomed Ankalaev getting skipped over. He's boring. He's boring? Do you even watch him fight? Or do you just look at the last name and automatically say he's boring?
Now, again, it's a little bit of a touchy subject, and again, those people do exist, but the problem is, this is something where I do agree with him with, where the Dagestani style is so overblown to be boring. Like, I think Merab's exciting, Umar Nurmagomedov is exciting, Magomed Ankalaev is exciting. Is Nasruddin Imavov Dagestani, or is he just French? I don't know. Regardless, there are so many Dagestani fighters that are incredibly exciting. Islam and Habib, like most Dagestani fighters in the UFC, I personally think are very exciting, and I've never understood why people said that.
Which is crazy because at one point in time, people were calling Habib Nurmagomedov boring. Arguably the most exciting fighter in the UFC ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely up there, and it's true. Like, yeah, Khabib just likes to sniff crotches. Like, what? This dude bashes people's faces in.
And people are cheerleading this, and this is the age of undeserved title shots. It's undeserved title shot after undeserved title shot after undeserved title shot. It's getting out of hand. Just off the top of my head, Sean Strickland skipped over Dricus du Plessis against Israel Adesanya. Okay.
The Sean Strickland title fight was, I believe Dricus deserved it more than him, but I didn't think that was absolutely criminal to give Sean Strickland the title fight.
Okay, Colby Covington skipping over Bilal Muhammad.
This is the problem that I have with Joey, okay, and his channel. Like, he makes really good content. I like listening to him break down some news, but he always finds a way, and this is what takes me out of it, okay? And I ask that you don't assume anything about my own personal beliefs. I keep that private for online. But he'll relate anything to Colby Covington and Sean Strickland and the occasional Bryce Mitchell. Why? It's obvious. And the guy will sit here and say, well, it's not because of that. I'm just talking facts over here. Like, no, this one applies to Colby Covington, but then you could literally say, like, I could look at my window here and go, like, oh, I kind of like recording videos with the blinds closed over here. And Joey would be like, oh, yeah, Colby Covington would definitely want to open those windows because he's such a hateful person and does not want you to sit comfortably. Same with Sean Strickland. He would want to open your windows, and Sean Strickland would probably want to break your window and just drive off because he's such a hateful guy.
What a complete and utter disgrace that was.
That was, but I mean, you could get around that with what he did. Like, he was a backup opponent, and I don't agree with it, but the UFC made sense of it.
Marlon Chito Vera skipping over Merab to get a title shot at UFC 299.
Merab was incredibly, incredibly difficult to deal with, apparently, and still might be, because he's already talking about not fighting Umar Nurmagomedov. And plus, how, the UFC, if you were the UFC, would you really be rewarding Merab with the way that he's like, no, I'm going to beat all of your contenders and never fight the champion? Oh, now you want to fight the champion? Man.
You can use Israel Adesanya skipping over, I guess, not really skipping over anyone, but Adesanya didn't deserve it against Strikas. I said that. People say, Joe, you defended it. No, I just said there was no clear-cut number one contender.
I think I agree with that.
So at least in the case where there's no clear-cut number one contender, that's one thing.
And that's how I feel about the light heavyweight division right now. There's no clear-cut number one contender. Magomed Ankalaev deserves it over the rest of them, but I still don't think he is a clear-cut number one contender.
But now, it's like every other fight's just an undeserved title shot. We are getting more undeserved title shots than earned title shots nowadays. And for the people laughing about Magomed Ankalaev getting skipped over, there was no other excuse than you were either... There's two excuses. You either are a family or friend of Khalil Rountree, or you hate Dagestanis.
Now, this is... You can't group people in like that. You just can't. It's not right. He's taking such a small minority of people that exist and just applying it to everybody who disagrees with him. That's not okay. It doesn't work like that.
Because you're just biased against any Dagestani fighter, whether it's because of where they're from or their religion. And let me tell you this. John Jones, Stipe Miocic is universally hated by the MMA community. Mm-hmm. It's your guys' fault.
Okay, hang on. I don't recall what he was going to say here. I listened to the video while I was doing something, so I don't remember all of his points.
You guys let this slide, and you guys let Dana White get away with this absolute disgrace of a card here. By the way, the card's shit, but the main event...
Is he talking about UFC 307 or the John Jones card?
Is a part of what makes it really dog shit. And you guys cheerlead Khalil Rountree getting the title shot. By the way, he's coming off...
No. The MMA community hates both of them. I don't know what he's seeing. I don't know if you guys disagree with me in the comments. Please let me know, but he is completely inaccurate.
A positive test. He's self-reported, but as you know, there could be holes in that.
And people are making fun of that. People are making so many... All I've been seeing is memes of Khalil Rountree. Test positive, beats beats Anthony Smith, and there was one other thing, title fight. People are making memes about it. It's ridiculous.
It is what it is. But he tests positive. His win streak is unimpressive. He arguably robbed Dustin Jacoby, who's literally basically a scrub, 2 fights ago.
I mean, to be honest with you, to touch on that fight, I don't recall exactly what I thought about that fight, but I believe I was thinking that Dustin Jacoby got the better of that fight. Regardless, it was pretty close.
And you guys are jumping through hoops to justify him getting a title shot because he's more exciting than Magomed Ankalaev, who's on a 12-fight unbeaten streak.
But the thing is, I understand from the UFC's perspective why they would want to put the most exciting guy and have him be pushed forward. Look at the rules right now. Damage over everything. Wrestling and control time mean very, very little. Is it right? I don't think so. But the UFC is a company that they can do what they want, and this is what's best for the sport. Like us making videos right now, Khalil Rountree versus Alex Pereira is better to make a video on than Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira.
Arguably the uncrowned champ. There's no other excuse than they're protecting Alex Pereira. And Alex Pereira, people hype him up and he's got such a great resume.
He does. I agree, though. The UFC is absolutely protecting Alex Pereira, but he does have a good resume.
And I got a lot of shit for this before. You could make the case Magomed Ankalaev's resume is better than Pereira's. I know.
That's just crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
He's the champion.
Just look at this. Yuri Prochazka twice, Jamal Hill, Jan Blachowicz, and Israel Adesanya twice.
Yuri Prochazka on short notice. Oh, God, that's so great. Oh,
it is great. It is great.
We beat Jamal Hill on short notice coming back from an Achilles injury.
He probably would have beat him either way, but you're right, and that is also a really good win. Jamal Hill is the rightful champion.
Oh, he beat Yuri Prochazka coming back. Kind of a quick turnaround. It wasn't a quick return, but his timeline got moved up a bit because the UFC needed him on this card.
I understand where he's coming from, but either way, Yuri Prochazka was ready. Yuri Prochazka never said that he wasn't ready. He took absolute responsibility for losing that fight, and he looked okay in that fight. The second fight, he didn't look like himself.
Coming back from a catastrophic shoulder injury. Jamal Hill was never even really the champion. He beat old man Glover Teixeira.
You mean old man Glover Teixeira that ran through the entire division? Glover Teixeira worked his way to that title fight and won the title.
He beat Jan Blachowicz, got a robbery win against him.
Yeah, that fight could have gone either way, but it's a win against a very, very great opponent.
So, like, people are acting as if, Pereira.
Well, what about the rest? Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya? What about the rest of the record? The rest of his record's great. Even Bruno Silva's a good win.
Pereira has some godly resume. No, he's beaten most guys on short notice coming back from catastrophic injuries. And
No. Alex Pereira has solidified himself as one of the greatest combat athletes of all time. And if he beats Khalil Rountree Jr., that record is only going to improve. And that legacy is only going to be even more solidified.
Whether or not that's his fault, we're not debating that. It's not his fault necessarily. But people are now justifying, like, oh, well, look what Pereira has on his resume. You could make the case Magomed Ankalaev's resume is better than his.
This is exactly the type of stuff where if you are in the MMA YouTube space at all, you would know that people accuse this guy of just being a contrarian. And I've always kind of disagreed with that. I just thought he had some wild takes, but it's stuff like this that really makes me sit back and go, okay, you know what? Maybe Twitter's right. Maybe he's just a contrarian for the sake of getting views. Stuff like this, I don't know how you can, like, logically say. I don't know how you can sit here and really defend that this record right here, the two Johnny Walker, Jan Blachowicz, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, Volkan Oezdemir, Nikita Krylov win, is better than the resume, or even close to the resume, that Alex Pereira has. That's insane.
Would he beat some of these guys? Sure. Would he beat Johnny Walker? Pereira would beat Johnny Walker for sure. He robbed Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz got a robbery draw against Magomed Ankalaev. Would he beat Anthony Smith? Sure, he would beat Anthony Smith. But my point is, Magomed Ankalaev's resume is comparable at light heavyweight to Pereira's. Okay,
if he's strictly talking about light heavyweight, which is, it's not an argument that we should really be making, to be honest with you. Why are you just cutting out half of Alex Pereira's wins against champions, by the way? It's still better than what Magomed Ankalaev has.
And I know people are going to go crazy about that. Oh, Joey, how could you even say such a thing?
And this is another thing that he does, man. He'll say the most wild and outlandish thing. Like, the dude will sit here and say 1 + 1 is 9, and he'll go, oh, and people will sit here and go, oh, Joey, how could you say 1 + 1 is 9? You're an idiot. You are an idiot. Like, it's hard not to laugh to, man. Like, sometimes, again, the content's great, and I continue to watch it, but sometimes it's just insulting to my intelligence.
Stop acting like Yuri Prohaska and Jamal Hill are great wins.
Ugh.
Okay, Jamal Hill's latest win before he lost to Pereira was his brother at the Thanksgiving table. Okay? Yuri Prohaska is wild and crazy. Early stoppage first fight. Coming back from a catastrophic injury. I'm just saying, the main point I'm trying to make here is you can pick apart anyone's resume and shit all over anyone's resume.
Yeah, I'm sure you could.
Okay? It should be Pereira versus Ankalaev, not Khalil Rountree, whose resume doesn't even hold a candle to either of those guys.
And I agree with that. I completely agree.
Either of those guys. But that's not it. Because this isn't about just the main event alone, okay? We have Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena. Every time I hear that fight, I want to throw up in my mouth. Juliana Pena fighting for the bantamweight title. That couldn't possibly be another undeserved title shot, could it? Oh, yes, it is.
Okay, but think about that. Think about the division and where it's at right now. Is there a clear number one contender? No, it has the same problem, but even more so. Like, yeah, could you say Norma Dumont? Could you? Like, again, there's no clear number one contender for this.
The last time she got a win.
Sorry to interrupt again, but I just want to make this clear. I absolutely think this is an undeserved title fight, just in case anybody is, any of you think that I'm saying otherwise.
Was in 2021. That's the last year that Stipe Miocic fought. It was in 2021. She lost to Amanda Nunes in July of 2022. Got embarrassed, absolutely humiliated and dominated. And now she's coming back 2 years later to fight for a title. And to rub salt in the wound, you have Kayla Harrison.
Okay, hang on. Because in case he moves on, I want to talk about that fight for a second. Again, thinking about it from the UFC's perspective, the best thing to do in that division is either Norma Dumont, because she'll get eyes and everybody will watch Norma Dumont, and not for the reason, of course, for her martial arts skills, but at least Norma Dumont will get eyes. Juliana Pena is the arguably better option. It's between those two. Unless you want to just kill the division and just... Juliana Pena, I've talked about this forever. At least she tries. At least she tries to make it entertaining. At least when the press conference comes, she's going to actively sit here and try to make things exciting for the fans. That's what I appreciate about Juliana Pena, and it's better to see her than some random contender that nobody cares about and nobody has even probably heard about, to be honest. If you're thinking about a casual, like buying a UFC pay-per-view, Juliana Pena is best for business. Well, Kayla Harrison is. But Juliana Pena is the next best option if you don't want to just I mean, I was going to say just put Disgrace to the rankings of MMA, but then Kayla Harrison would do the same thing, right?
On the card. Who could fight for the title? And I know people are going to say, Kayla Harrison's only got one win in the UFC. Yeah, she dominated Holly Holm, and you can take into account that she was a champion in another organization.
Holly Holm is not a good win at all. One little bit. Apply the same logic that you've been using the entire video, Joey, please.
She's made weight one time. Let's throw her into a title fight. Instead, we're going to have Juliana Pena fight for the belt. Absolute disgrace. Now, Jose Aldo and Mario Batista, I can't complain about. That's a solid fight.
That's an amazing fight. If he found a way to complain about that, I would go crazy.
Solid fight. No complaints. Legend and Jose Aldo versus up-and-coming Mario Batista. I like the fight.
Yep. It's
a
fantastic.
Solid fight. Can't complain. Kayla Harrison, Clen Vieira.
Boring.
I know I just said, Kayla Harrison going to be fighting for the title. Clen Vieira is going to get dominated.
Yep.
Kayla Harrison's going to dominate her.
And then she's going to get her title fight. And then she's going to fight the winner of Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena. Unless the winner decides to take 3 years off.
Even a competitive fight, and this is on the main card. At least on UFC 300, Kayla Harrison was on the prelims, if I'm not mistaken. And then the cherry on the top, Roman Dolidze versus Kevin Holland.
I like this fight. Kevin Holland's typically pretty exciting, and honestly, same with Roman Dolidze. I mean, I'm not saying they're the best fighters in the world, but it's a pretty solid fight.
Let's actually open up their resumes right now, because I'm pretty sure Roman Dolidze's on a losing streak. No, he actually beat Anthony Smith.
So it's just funny seeing Anthony Smith as a win on everybody's record.
God, he stepped in on short notice. I was going to say he lost to Nasruddin Imavov, lost to Marvin Vettori. So one fight winning streak for him. Then you have Kevin Holland, who's coming off a win over Mikhail Oleszejczak.
But also look at that resume from Kevin Holland. Look at that resume. He lost Michael Page, Jack Della Maddalena, Stephen Thompson, and Hamza Chimaev. Those are fantastic losses to have. And he tried in those fights, aside from maybe the Jack Della Maddalena fight. Like, maybe the Michael Page fight, but regardless, maybe he was also just outclassed. There's an argument to be made there. I think Kevin Holland showed up and apparently didn't really care. But then again, he could have done the Anderson Silva in the sense where I've always argued this about Anderson Silva, by the way, and I will to the end of time. Maybe I should make like my UFC hot take video. I think that'd be pretty cool. Anderson Silva only started clowning around against Chris Weidman because he knew that he was outclassed and had no way to win, and then that way the win will look better. I think Kevin Holland maybe could have done that against Michael Page and Jack Della Maddalena. You never know.
But, I mean, look how many losses he has. He's lost, what, 4 out of his last 7? Now, he's fought steep opposition, but this dude has more privilege than anyone in the whole entire organization.
Why? Why, though? Why? Why does the UFC favoring him? Why does the UFC like Kevin Holland? He says yes. He has saved cards. The Dana White needs help. Kevin Holland will say, yes, I will help. Why would you not reward that guy? Yeah, let's reward the guy who refuses to fight and wants to fight once a year. Once every 2 years. That's ridiculous. If I was in charge of the UFC, I would absolutely be rewarding Kevin Holland with main card positions and a lot of money.
Kevin Holland does. I've been saying this for a while. Dana White privilege, Kevin Holland has more Dana White privilege than anyone.
Again, why?
And that's why I'm so sick and tired of people saying, Dagestani privilege, Dagestani privilege. Where is it for Magomed Ankalaev? And don't get me started on Movsar Evloev, because we're going to get to him in a second. But this card is a disgrace, guys. I mean, look at this in its entirety. Pereira, Rountree, Pennington, Pena, Aldo Batista, Harrison Vieira, Dolidze versus Holland.
I like it. I'm excited to watch this card.
They have some okay prelims.
The prelims are fantastic. Even Marina Rodriguez versus Eisman Lucindo. That's even a good fight for the strawweight division.
Yeah, you got Ihor Potieria versus Cesar Almeida. That's
a banger. That's a banger. I forgot about Esparza Pennington. That fight sucks.
Interesting. Wonderboy versus Joaquin Buckley. Mildly interesting.
Mildly interesting. Wonderboy Thompson versus Joaquin Buckley. That's crazy.
This card's shit, guys.
And St. Preux versus Span has the potential to just be some crazy knockout. That's exciting too.
And if I had to grade it, I'm giving it a 1 out of 10.
See, but come on, like that is so over-exaggerating it. I understand not liking the card. I get that. But come on, man. Like, I would give this one a 7.
I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. This is one of the worst pay-per-views I've seen in modern UFC history.
That's crazy.
We're expected to pay $80 for this in America.
Yeah, I think that the UFC pay-per-view price should be reduced significantly. But I mean, like, it is a pay-per-view worthy card.
$80 for 2 undeserved title shots. No, I don't care to see it. Now I want to jump ahead now, or not really jump ahead, but I want to discuss Movsar Evloev, Aljamain Sterling, because that fight was recently canceled when Aljamain Sterling pulled out with an injury. He was, somebody was wrenching a Kimura on him, 2 weeks before a fight, and somehow he gets injured. Ridiculous. What is his training partner doing? What is he doing? But
yeah, why? I have no idea why they were doing that.
Movsar Evloev tweeted this out. A lot of people say they want to fight me on the internet, but if you really want to fight me, call the UFC and I will fight you. Make 145 pounds and it's a go. And I know you are more dangerous than Sterling, but if you want to be a champion, if I want to be champion, I have to beat everyone.
I love that mindset. I absolutely love that mindset. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that I was covering the tweet and I still am. That's the best that you're going to get. It was read out to you. I need to make more OBS scenes where I can have my camera fly around the entire screen. But regardless, I love that attitude, and I don't know what happened with Gene Silva. I don't know if Joey's going to expand on that at all, but I don't know. Maybe. Oh, no, Silva couldn't make the weight for 145. Is that what it was? I remember hearing something about it.
Round of applause. Movsar Evloev said, I'll fight anyone.
Yeah, I think fighters like this should be praised. I think that people like Movsar Evloev, and when they say stuff like this and actually live up to it, I think that they need to be more appreciated within the MMA community.
If you want to be champion, you got to beat everyone. Jean Silva, who I actually really like, who's a very promising prospect, then came back and basically said he'll fight him in November. He can't fight him in October, but he'll fight him in November. Movsar Evloev was off the card. People are acting as if Movsar Evloev ducked Jean Silva. They're acting as if Evloev, they're like, I've seen people saying, yeah, give him the Makayev treatment. Let's get rid of him from the organization. Movsar's boring.
Actually, I have seen that too. I have seen people freaking out about Movsar about that. But again, he's over-exaggerating the amount of hate that Movsar is getting, but that does exist.
What? And he also even posted, I will fight anyone. Call the UFC if you're interested. This is exactly who we should want on fight cards. Okay?
I agree with that.
He's willing to fight anyone and everyone.
I completely agree with that. And there's nothing wrong with him asking for somebody to make weight and asking to stay on the same card.
And what disgusts me about this whole Movsar Evloev situation is taking dangerous opponents on short notice is basically a lose-lose when you're a top-ranked fighter. Because Movsar Evloev took on Diego Lopez on a week's notice, literally dominated him except a couple submission attempts from Diego Lopez where Joe Rogan screamed, it's close, he's in danger, he's in real danger here, he's in real trouble here.
No, Diego put up a fantastic fight in that bout.
And then people act as if Diego Lopez somehow won. Now, people somehow use that fight against him.
But people don't think that, though. Who thinks that? I've never seen that anywhere. People could talk about that fight and say, wow, Diego Lopez is the real deal. Look who he hung with. He was able to hang and give Movsar Evloev problems. You don't see people saying that was a robbery.
When that fight wasn't boring at all, the Arnold Allen fight wasn't boring at all, and now people are somehow hating on Movsar, and you want to know why that is? Because they want to hate on him because he's Dagestani.
Now, there is another part to this, and I need you guys to take this with a grain of salt because I don't know how accurate this is. I've never seen clips of him saying this or a tweet of him saying this, but it's been around the MMA community for a long time now that Movsar Evloev is, I don't know how to say this for YouTube friendly, pro being friendly with girls that are, on the younger side of things. I've heard this. I don't know how accurate that is, but I see memes of it all the time. If that's the case, that hate is understandable.
That's why. I hate to break it to you guys. He beat the dog shit out of Diego Lopez.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Like this is the thing. Again, he lives in his own reality, man.
See that rematch.
I would love to.
Diego Lopez, give him a full camp. I suspect it'll be no different. Movsar would beat him again. That's why Diego Lopez doesn't want that fight. Okay.
I don't know about that. I don't know who I'd pick for that fight.
Okay, people could say, oh, well, he asked for it and he begged for it. Yeah, there was other things going on at the time. It wasn't like Movsar's ducking Diego Lopez by any means. He takes Diego Lopez, he beats him. He gets no credit for beating a dangerous Diego Lopez, who's now ranked in the top 5. Who's ranked ahead of Movsar, by the way.
Well, now that credit should be well deserved. Like, don't get me wrong, it should have been like Movsar fighting Diego Lopez in the first place is something that should be appreciated. But at the same time, like that Diego Lopez win didn't mean a lot. it looked bad on Movsar Evloev because at the time nobody knew who Diego Lopez was. It was this guy with a record that wasn't so great. And then the top contender had problems with this guy.
Gets no credit for that. Then when he's willing to take on Jean Silva, an absolute dangerous 145er who isn't ranked, unless he recently got ranked, which I don't think he did, he's willing to take on him. And Jean Silva isn't ready. He says, oh, I'll fight you in November. So he gets pulled off the card and people act as if he ducked Jean Silva now.
Yeah, that's ridiculous in my opinion. That's absolutely ridiculous.
The MMA fans are delusional. Not all of them, but a large swath of them. And it's driving me nuts. I wanted to cover that in this video. But
it depends what he's talking about, man, because there's some points where I've agreed with him and some points where I've disagreed with him.
Sorry, Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling was a banger, man. That was the fight I was most looking forward to on UFC 307.
Now, that might have been the fight that I was looking forward to most. I'd have to think about it. No, Cesar Almeida versus Ihor Pereira is actually the fight that I'm looking forward to the most. But this would have been number 2. But what was most likely to happen is Sterling to be on all fours, Movsar Evloev trying to wrestle, and then people would cry and whine about that fight. It might be for the best that this fight's off the card.
But it's crazy to me that this fight card isn't getting more hate. This is a dog shit fight card. Absolute dog shit fight card. And what really rubs salt in the wound, and we'll go back to looking at this one more time. What really rubs salt in the wound is if you go to Magomed Ankalaev's current, bout against Alexander Rakic, UFC 308, October 26th. 21 days apart. 21 days apart. It could have been Pereira versus Ankalaev.
Yeah, it could have been, but it's not.
I'm convinced the UFC's protecting Pereira because he's their little golden goose right now.
But it's not talking about Alex Pereira and the UFC light heavyweight champion, somebody who's bringing the UFC so much stardom. I don't know. It doesn't feel right calling him little golden goose. He's doing a lot for the UFC and he's kind of being protected and awarded. I understand that. I don't think it's right, but it's an understandable thing for the UFC to do.
Scared that he might lose, just like they protected O'Malley from a rob for the time being and gave him Chito Vera. They said, let's give him Khalil Rountree. Easy win. Khalil Rountree is not a deserving number 1 contender.
Could you imagine if Khalil Rountree comes out and just absolutely starches Alex Pereira? To be honest with you, I talked about this in my full card breakdown, but I got a gut feeling that this one might be an upset. Pereira should win this fight. He absolutely should. He should win 9 out of 10 times. But, Khalil's the dog that can bark, man.
Juliana Pena, Raquel Pennington, no idea why they made that fight. I guess they didn't want Kayla Harrison to come right in and become champion because maybe it makes, PFL look better. I don't know.
Ooh, actually, that's an interesting idea because I've always been a little bit curious about that. They're so willing to give fighters undeserved title fights, but why not Kayla Harrison? That actually makes a lot of sense because obviously Dana White doesn't like the PFL. Actually, that's a good reason for it.
Can't really flush that one out. I really haven't put a whole lot of thought into that. But overall, again, this card is garbage. 2 undeserved title shots. Decent bantamweight fight. Okay, I'm excited to see Kayla Harrison dominate Ketlen Vieira. Roman Dolidze, Kevin Holland. I literally couldn't give a rat's ass about that fight.
I don't know how. Nobody hates MMA more than MMA fans, man.
And if you really care about Roman Dolidze versus Kevin Holland, I think you have a mental disability.
This is what I'm talking about. The content's good. The structure of it's good. The fight breakdowns are pretty good. The post-fight reactions are fun. The channel's good. But sometimes I feel I feel insulted, and then I come back to this channel because I'm I enjoy what I see, but then it makes me just who the hell are you to say this about me? It's okay to be excited for Roman Dolidze and Kevin Holland. That's just wild. But then I also chalk it up to, I'm going to say it. This may not apply to this particular YouTuber, but dumb people will be dumb. That's kind of how I think about things like this. I don't see what the big deal is. I would never get pissed off at somebody or call somebody an idiot for being excited for martial arts when that's what they're watching. It's a good fight. I don't understand why this guy feels the need to insult his viewers all the time.
And then to top it all off, you have people who cry, Dagestani privilege. Can you believe that Hamzat gets to fight Robert Whittaker? Can you believe Umar Nurmagomedov gets to fight Corey Sandhagen? Yeah, it's not privilege. When it's Ikram Aliskerov, when he gets brutalized by Robert Whittaker, that's not privilege.
It's individual fighter privilege. It's not Dagestani privilege.
But, somehow they're privileged, even though Khalil Rountree is getting a title shot over the rightful #1 contender in Magomed Ankalaev, who could be the uncrowned light heavyweight champion. Overall, I give this card a 1 out of 10. It is a disgrace to the sport.
7 out of 10. I think that's a fair number.
It is a travesty. And you may enjoy this now. You may be one of those people who doesn't like Magomed Ankalaev and call him boring, even though he's not boring and has plenty of finishes. And he's not even a grappler. He's primarily a striker.
Yeah, Magomed Ankalaev is an exciting fighter. He's not the most exciting fighter in the world, but he is absolutely an exciting fighter. And I think a matchup with him or Pereira would be really, really fun. And I don't think that's disputable.
But there's going to be times where you let this slide and it's a slippery slope. You're to blame for the reason that Stipe Miocic is getting an undeserved title shot.
No, we're not, because the whole community freaked out about it, and still to this day, since the announcement, have been freaking out about it. Our word means nothing. The only thing that will ever make the UFC change is for people to stop paying for their stuff, which is never going to happen. To be honest with you, I'm not going to change anything. I'm still going to pay for the product. I'm going to sit here and watch some fights. Do I think Stipe Miocic deserves a title fight? Do I think Khalil Rountree deserves a title fight? No, but I'm going to watch it. I'm going to have fun watching it. And again, a lot of this stuff makes sense from a business perspective. They want John Jones to ride off into the sunset and be the greatest fighter of all time. Give him 43-year-old Stipe Miocic or however old he is. It's not right, but it's understandable. If you start looking at it from the UFC's perspective and think about, like, okay, if I was the person running this company, what would I do? I think people are lying to themselves when they say they wouldn't hesitate to give Khalil Rountree a title shot when it's at least it's something that you are capable of doing instead of Magomed Ankalaev. I think that people are being a little bit dishonest with themselves. And you know what? Some people would take that risk if they're running the company, but I think the vast majority of people are being a little bit dishonest when they're talking online about this.
Oh, if you didn't like Adesanya getting a title shot, you're to blame for Adesanya getting a title shot. It's getting worse and worse, boys. It's getting worse and worse, and it's getting to a point where it's nothing more than a popularity contest. And I'm really getting sick and tired of it. I'm not looking forward to UFC 307. I'm going to make a video about UFC 308 soon because I absolutely love UFC 308.
I'm shocked there was nothing to find on there that he really hates.
And we need something positive. I can't wait for that card. Ilya Topuria, Max Holloway. The card is absolutely stacked. But let me know what you guys think of 307. Let me know down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, that was an interesting video. Like I said, there were some things to break down, some things that I liked, some things that I didn't like. And as always, guys, I'd love to know what you think about the comments down below. But it doesn't have to stop here. First of all, thank you for watching this video. But we have another reaction to the exact same channel if you would like to check it out right here, guys. I will see you either there or in the next video, everybody. Take care, guys.